Hey, 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 yeah, hey, what a time to be alive. I left them for dead, now I'm living right. No new friends, no new advice. That was high then, but we got bigger heights. We got bigger fish to fry. Bet on myself, then I roll the dice. Man, it ain't a gamble if you know you nice.
Welcome back to Dollar and a Dream podcast. I'm your host, Ara Amen. This is the #1 podcast in Dallas. And today my guest is Marty Wilson. Marty was as a basketball player in college. He is a 2-time champion at Pepperdine. As a coach, he's a 3-time champion at Pepperdine, 2-time champion as a coach at UC Santa Barbara, and a 1-time champion at University of Utah. So thank you for being here with us, Marty.
I appreciate you having me on. I've enjoyed watching some of your previous videos. I'm excited to be on.
I appreciate it. I want to kind of just go ahead and just get started from the beginning. Where were you born? What was it like growing up? What was family like?
Well, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and people close to L.A., about 30 minutes north of L.A., and in a city called Pacoima, California. I am the youngest of 6. Parents divorced and went their separate ways, so obviously we stayed with mom and just watched her battle and struggle and make ends meet. But she was my biggest inspiration, just seeing every day how she worked, how she was committed to our family, committed to our education, and I think I've developed my motto. One of my mottos is "Show me, don't tell me." And because she would always show us how hard she was working, she didn't have to tell us how hard she was working, and that is stuck into my head from day one, and I live by that. But again, parents divorced. Years later, I ended up moving out with my dad. He lived in a better area. Things started getting a little crazy and rough where I grew up. And
What age is this?
14 and a half.
Okay.
Friends start carrying guns, and I obviously didn't want to get caught up in that life. My older brother, one of my older brothers had gone to high school in Simi Valley and stayed with my dad. He had some success. So I ended up going out there for 3 years and having some success, and did some good things that led to getting me a college scholarship.
Awesome. And when did you first get introduced to basketball?
Oh, boy. I used to tag along with my brother everywhere he went. No one knew my name. I was just Little Norris. Hey, that's Little Norris. That's Little Norris. So I tried to emulate and copy everything he did from as long as I know. But in terms of organized basketball, I started at age 9. My mother wanted to, again, keep me in something organized. I played for the Sun Valley Falcons. So that was my first introduction and been a part of it for the rest of my life.
So when you're following your brother around, is it just, kind of like outside basketball? It's not like organized?
Yeah, it was
just friends meeting up?
Just friends meeting up, playing at the park, playing in the apartments, playing at the local schools. And a lot of times I didn't get to play. Yeah, you're too little. You can't play.
Yeah.
And then as I start to grow and they needed somebody else and I start to show what I can do, I was able to get out there and play. And then when I got to a certain age, I was able to start beating those guys, and obviously they start to figure out I was pretty good.
The guys that wouldn't let you play, now you're
Correct.
beating them.
Correct, especially my older brother.
What did that feel like?
It was great. It was great. I went back years later. I ran a free basketball camp in our old neighborhood for the kids that couldn't afford to go to a Pepperdine and pay $300 and something for a camp. My whole family volunteered. We'd have 80 to 100 kids at the camp, but I wanted to make a point to my older brother, and I say this all the time to older brothers that have younger brothers. I said, keep challenging your younger brother. Play him every day. Beat him as often as you can. One of two things are going to happen. He's either going to quit or he's going to secretly work out until he beats you, and that was my motivation. So when I played my brother one-on-one in front of our camp, and I beat him like a drum.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was the best feeling. It was the best feeling.
How's your relationship with your brother now?
He's still someone that I idolize. I look up to. A lot of fond memories of what we did. growing up. And but no, yeah, I talk to him often, and no, he's my guy. He's my guy. And the crazy thing is we sound exactly alike.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear myself, or I would talk to his wife, I call his house, and his wife would answer, she would think I was him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was a little weird. And his daughters to this day still think the same.
Wow, interesting. So what was Marty like in high school?
Really quiet. When I first got to the high school, I didn't know anyone. Again, I had some stepsisters that went to school there, but I didn't know a soul. I remember like it was yesterday, the first 2 days I stood up against the wall during lunch.
Wow.
Didn't know anyone. Eventually, the gym opened up. We started to go in the gym, playing one-on-one, playing shoot-around, playing 21. And that's when people start to, hey, this guy's pretty good. And then once you start conditioning and lifting and whatnot, you start to meet the team. But I was really quiet off the floor. And, again, the coach knew I was coming, so he poured into me. Bob Hawking was his name, or is his name. And great man, great teacher, great father and family man. And the unique thing about Coach Hawking, Ara, it's been almost 40 years since I've graduated from high school, which is scary for me to think that. I still think I'm 25 years old. But we had 10 guys on our basketball team. To this day, one has passed. To this day, we have a text chain of everybody from that team.
Wow.
All of the coaches and the 9 other players.
From high school basketball?
From high school, 39 years ago.
Why were you all so close? Because that's not common.
Mainly because our head coach, Coach Hawking.
Okay.
He would have us over to his house for us to see him as a family man, as a father, not just a coach, not just when he's tough on us. The culture that he built was important. So we saw those things. And then just the things that he demanded from us, of us as a team, competing against one another, competing with one another, and then having the success that we had on the basketball floor was important. And so we stayed in touch. And years later, I don't know who started the group chat, but I remember writing something right before I was driving. As I was driving, that thing was buzzing. I get home, there must have been 50, 75 different text messages. But to this day, we reach out to each other, happy birthday, congratulations on this. We might talk just about hoops here and there, and complain about a bad call from a referee, different things like that.
That's amazing. That is that bond that y'all have has stood the test of time. And it's kind of like seeing a friend that you haven't seen in a while,
right? And
it just picks up right where it left off.
Right.
Let me ask you this. What is the biggest thing that you learned from your coach as a young man that was instilled into you that you took with you through, I guess, college, being a player, and then being a coach, and then trying to instill that into other young men?
Number one is hard work.
Okay.
Again, he challenged us, whether it was basketball practice, whether it was drills, whether it was running sprints, kind of creating the competitiveness in us competing against one another, us competing against other teams, the different conditioning drills that we did. Some of them to this day I still hate just hearing the name. There was one called Ralston. It was a long 3.5 mile run. We still joke about it, but that was the main thing of the culture of our program was predicated on hard work, and we were called the Rat Pack. So we were so tight as a team, and obviously 39 years later it still shows. But there were so many things that he instilled in me, but in us as a team, and we still talk about those things in the chat.
So how do you instill that in your coach, your players and things like that? So I know you say hard work, and you've mentioned competition a few times. Was he instigating competition between players to get the best out of you, or how is he trying to pull that hard work out of you, pull that competition out of you?
Well, he would tap into depending on what the situation was, whether it was a shooting drill or conditioning drill or just a race. He would tap into your individual pride. He charted everything. He kept records for everything. So if you had individual pride, you wanted to be on the record board.
Okay.
And so if it was weightlifting, suicide, running drills that anybody that played basketball knows what a suicide drill is.
Yeah, I'm very familiar.
Double suicides, things like that. So he would keep track of those things, and then sometimes we'd individualize. Sometimes he'd pair up certain guys with one another, and see who had the individual pride to want to win.
Gotcha.
And then that just developed amongst our team.
He's creating competition then. He knows. So if you say you have two of the best shooters, have them shoot who's the best.
And compete, or now you're picking teams, and now you're competing as a team.
Oh, interesting.
So he was very creative with those things, and again, he charted everything. We would have fun with it as well. Some of it was lighthearted, but it was a culture that he built. And for me, always looking back, once I became a coach and became a head coach, I instilled some of those things. And one saying that he had was, "Pay me now or pay me later, but you will pay me."
Ooh.
And I had that on my wall at Pepperdine when I was a head coach. I have to get it reorganized, rearranged for my home office, but that's something that would always stick with me.
Pay me now, pay me later, but you're gonna pay me.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Hey, you're either going to work hard now or you're going to work hard later.
Well, you're gonna work.
But you're going to work.
Got you.
And if you want to achieve anything.
Uh-huh.
So if it was a conditioning deal, hey, you had a certain time that you had to make. If you didn't make it, you got to pay me later.
Got you.
But you're going to pay me. So if we were doing a 6-minute mile and you got a 6:01, next day or 2 days later, you have to do it again.
Got you.
And then again, those types of things drove you to become great.
Interesting. Okay, so you're in high school. You're playing for this coach. What did y'all win any championships there? What was those seasons like?
We did my sophomore year. Again, back then you went sophomore, junior, senior to high school. My sophomore year, I made the varsity team, which was a very good team. I played for a little bit, but realized I wasn't going to play a whole lot because the team was really good, and that team ended up winning the league championship. So I elected to go down to the junior varsity, and we won the championship that year. And then I went up. My junior year, had a mediocre year, and then my senior year, we won the league, and we were picked second to win the league. There was another team, which Thousand Oaks High School was a pretty big team. They had a 6'7" guy who was already signed to go to Stanford. They had a 6'9" center. But we had a thing. This is a challenge from Coach Hawking. He had a sign on the door that we have to come in and out of the locker room, going to the locker room. And it said, the bottom line, the Lancers will fall, and then whatever the date was. And we all had to sign it.
The Lancers will fall. What does that mean?
The Lancers, that was their nickname.
Okay.
The Thousand Oaks Lancers.
Oh, got you.
They were the favorite in the league.
Every day.
So every day prior to us playing them.
So the projected number one
One team.
Every day you go in the locker room, you have to sign.
No, we signed it one time.
Oh, you signed it one time.
So every day we walked by it, we saw it.
Interesting.
And that was the motivation that he was, the psychological motivation that he would tap into.
I just got chills because I'm thinking about how we can do that with what we're doing.
There's a lot of things. And then we go to their place and beat them on their floor.
Mm.
And the crazy thing is the player, he was projected the best player in the league. He ended up quitting after that game.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's very a great I guess an exercise to put on your team as a leader.
Right.
That's interesting.
Right.
What position did you play?
Well, in high school, our team wasn't very big. We had one guy who was 6'4". I'm 6'3". So I would jump center.
Okay.
To try to win the jump ball. I was listed as a guard forward, but I had the freedom to get the rebound, bring it up, and make decisions.
Okay.
But in high school, I would say I was considered a forward.
Okay.
But in college, I was a point guard.
Interesting.
So I had to completely convert different positions and mindsets and things like that. But I was a very unselfish player and a pretty good passer. So naturally, it was easy for me to make that transition.
What was your stat line your senior year?
In high school?
In high school.
In high school, I was pretty good. I think it was like a little over 21 points a game.
Okay.
A little bit over 10 rebounds a game. I'm not sure how many assists. Again, I was
But that's
top
good.
scorer.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I had some pretty good accolades. I was MVP of the league, MVP of the county, all CIF, all state. So I was pretty decent in high school.
Cool. So then you go to college. Explain that transition and how you got recruited.
Well, the great thing, like I said, Coach Hawking, our high school coach, he was very well connected. He had a lot of success as a coach, but he was connected with the coaches at Pepperdine, Jim Herrick, Tom Asbury, who were the head coach and assistant coaches there. Our high school, Simi Valley High School, would go to Pepperdine's camp every summer. So I had gone to their camp a couple of summers. Coach Herrick, who was our head coach at Pepperdine, his son played at Newberry Park High School. So we in our league, so we would compete against them. So he would see me when we're playing against his son. So just going through that process and seeing that they had access to watching me and developing a relationship with me because of Coach Hawking. And it just worked out that the timing was right when they needed a player of my position, that they offered me a scholarship, and I ended up going there.
And you were there all 4 years?
Actually, I was there for 5 years.
5 years, okay.
I ended up blowing out my knee pretty substantially, and it forced me to redshirt 1 year. But I played on some really good teams. My sophomore year, we had 3 guys go play in the NBA.
Okay.
And so me competing every day against future NBA players only helped me out.
What year did you get that injury?
I blew out my knee in 1988. It was I think 17 or 18 games into the season.
The first year?
No, my third year. But I had already redshirted. So I had to be ready the next year. So I tore my ACL, my MCL, my PCL.
Wow.
Which they call the terrible 3.
Yeah.
And I heard the whispers of, I don't know, he'll ever play again. But they didn't know what was inside the heart, and I worked my tail off. I had a female therapist who kicked my tail, and she challenged me, and she didn't realize how competitive I was. And as my knee got stronger and stronger in some of the workouts and treatment, she said, hey, the machine cuts off once you get to 1,200. And I got to close to 1,000. I said, give me to next week, I'll shut it off. She said, there's no way. So I went back to school, and I'm training.
Is that like 1,200? What is 1,200?
The whatever the RPMs or the whatever the rating was.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And so we had a manual machine similar, but theirs was computerized. And she said, there's no way you'll get 1,200 by next week. So I was going in 2-3 times a day on my own, just building up the leg. I went back. Once it gets to 1,200, that thing shuts off. I shut it off twice. She had to take me to lunch.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was awesome. And the great thing about that I'm jumping ahead, but when you, as an assistant or as a coach, you run into players and you have players who become injured and sustain injuries, it allowed me to be able to help them. Right.
Find a pressure point or a way to get them that competition juices flowing.
Well, the first of all, the psychological part of overcoming just the heartbreak of not being able to work out, not being able to be a part of your team, not being able to work out and practice and travel and play and do those things. That was number one. And then just letting them know, hey, I've been through it. This is what you're going to experience. Here's what I did to try to fight through it. And then send them videos of different guys and articles and things like that just to motivate them. That was, if there was ever a good thing about me getting hurt, was able to help others. And then my son, I had a son who played high school and college basketball, junior college basketball, and he's competitive as heck. and we would compete, and we still compete. Hell, he was here during Christmas. We went out fishing, and we competed in fishing. Hell, we were on the phone that day. And
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So he kicked my butt in fishing that day. I didn't catch anything in our own pond. But he had 5 knee surgeries. I've had 4. He had 5.
Okay.
And I says, hey, we don't want to be competitive in this.
Yeah,
that's one thing. But the injuries allowed me to be able to help players down the line.
Cool. Bring that sucker right up close to you.
Okay.
And so what happened when you got injured, and what was your mindset, right? I kind of want to go back real quick and ask one more question. Was your plans to go into the league?
Everyone's plans.
Okay.
Every young kid, especially where I grew up, but probably every kid in high school or playing college basketball, that was your dream, is to play in the NBA. I wouldn't say that injury prevented me from it, because it's hard to get there. I had a chance to try to play afterwards. Had a couple of tryouts here and there. They didn't work out. I had a lot of friends that had bounced around all over the world playing basketball in any country you can think of. I wasn't that type of person. You
didn't want to travel or bounce around?
I didn't want to bounce around.
Okay.
I didn't want to have the instability in my life.
Understood.
So I said, hey, I need to go start my life. And,
okay.
So I got into coaching.
And how did the injury happen?
Oh man, I can see it like it was yesterday. Again, I was a big point guard in college. I was guarded by a smaller point guard at the University of Portland, and we run a little play we call guard cut, and they were going to post me up on the block with the little guy behind me. Mm-hmm. So I get the ball on the block, and I go to spin, and my left foot stayed planted, and my knee just spun.
Oh, man.
And I collapsed right there and knew right away that I was seriously injured, and that thing ballooned like a basketball the next day, and had to wait till the swelling go down and get surgery.
That was your first big injury?
I had a herniated disc the year before, which forced me to redshirt, so that's why that next year was hard of getting injured with a knee. The year before, again, just working out. I don't know exactly what caused the herniated disc, but that was tough because I couldn't physically be on the floor and do things. But then getting injured with my knee, that was a physical injury.
Yeah.
That obviously I couldn't control. But it was tough. I tell you what, the great thing about it is, again, I didn't have that redshirt year the next year to be able to sit out and recover. But it just prompted me to tap into my own competitiveness of, hey, I have to be back for next season, my senior year. And I got back 6 months, which is back then.
That's quick. That's very quick.
Almost 35 years ago. That's unheard of with the technology then compared to now.
Right.
But as I told you, I worked my butt off.
Let me ask you this: when you're going to college as a player, what is the diet like? What is people telling, like what is the nutrition, the diet? What are coaches telling you to do? What to eat? What not to eat? Are you all partying? Are you drinking? Like, what's that lifestyle like off the court?
Well, it was totally different then. Again, that's 100 years ago compared to now in terms of the sciences and the resources that you had. There were no strength coaches back then. There was no one really studying what you should eat. There were no monetary resources to be able to give you certain things back then. Our trainer was our nutritionist and trying to educate us on certain things. So we would have, and I know people would think this is crazy, we would play home games on Friday, Saturday, back-to-back days, because of the proximity to the other team, Loyola Marymount. We would have steak and potatoes for pregame meal, which people thinking now would be that's crazy.
It's heavy.
Because of how heavy it was. Well, I like my steak well done. So having steak well done every Friday, Saturday, or some Tuesday or Thursday, Saturday, it got old. So I rarely eat steak to this day. So we didn't have the resources to be able to educate us on those things, and it's evolved tremendously. And now you have there's so many resources in terms of what you should eat: chicken, fish, pasta, just stuff that's going to create fuel, and then ways to help you recover physically as well. We didn't have any of that stuff.
Well, did y'all party? Did you know guys on the team that would party?
Yeah. We would party, and again, everybody has different versions of what party was. We would go out. UCLA wasn't very far. USC wasn't very far. Back then, Westwood was the place to be, and not necessarily party, but we'd go and you're walking around the streets. There's some nightclubs. There's some under 21 bars that you can get into. So we would do that. We weren't a big party team. And again, everybody has someone on the team that may smoke or drink and do things like that. That was the one thing to this day that I've always taken pride in. Okay, I'm not a big drinker to this day. I might have something at home every once in a while. Never ever touched a cigarette or weed or any of those things, because I'm a big believer in practice what you preach. Okay, I have 2 kids now, and as they were young, I couldn't tell them not to do something that I was doing. And or with our players, I can't tell them, hey, don't do this, when they know, hey, coach, you did this and this and this. So I took pride in those things. And again, I didn't want to beat up my body. I had to use it for being able to be the best I can be on the court.
And the sharpness of your mentality is something that kind of, with some of the challenges that you and I go through now, I'm realizing it's like just that slight competitive edge 100. Will give you just that energy.
100.
And if you know this guy parties, I'm going to beat you. Like, there's just no way.
No doubt. And well, the physical change, if I'm clean and healthy and sharp, yeah, I'm going to have that edge physically.
Right.
And then if that person's been drinking and didn't get enough sleep, and mentally they're going to be worn out. So eventually it's going to separate during the game. And that was what was important to me. And again, like I said, it was just a personal pride thing of, hey, I just don't do those things.
Did you know the people that partied and say, I'm going to, or like on opposing teams or even in practice, and say, I'm going to make sure they don't win? Was there any level of that type of thoughts?
Well, in the games, you didn't know.
You didn't know.
Yeah,
okay.
you didn't know what their lifestyle was.
Okay.
There were some guys on our team that would party and hang out, and it wasn't necessarily because they did this, I'm going to try to take advantage. It was just say, I'm going to try to beat you in everything I do.
Got you.
And one thing that I would try to do, and like I said, practice what I preach. If I'm going to try to beat you in everything, hopefully it gets to the point where you realize, hey, you can't beat me in anything. So if we're running a line drill or we're doing a shooting contest or whatever it is, and I just keep beating you, you're going to realize I can't beat this guy.
Got you.
So that was my mindset. And then I tried to pass that on to players. When I became a head coach, again, like Coach Hawking, okay, tap into the psychological side of, okay, we're going to do this drill and we're going to do this drill. And, hey, gosh, so-and-so, hey, ours is winning every single time. Can anybody beat them? Oh, that's going to drive guys to make it more competitive. And that just raised the level of your team.
Awesome. Well, let's transition into you becoming a coach. You went from winning 2 championships at Pepperdine, sorry.
Right.
And you didn't want to bounce around, and you decided. How did that transition go?
Well, once I realized that I wasn't going to try to bounce around. Again, I had an agent, and he was telling me, hey, you have an opportunity to possibly go to this place, this country. And things just drug along. And I just finally told him, hey, I need to start my life. So as I was still training for those opportunities, I went back to my old high school, and the coach, Dean Bradshaw, who was the head coach there then, he was the assistant when I played. He offered me the job, but he says, hey, if you end up getting that job to play, hey, go do that. But if you don't, and hey, you still have a position here as an assistant. So I did that for 1 year in high school, and again, the pay wasn't very, very good, but just got my feet wet. And then opportunity opened at Pepperdine, where I played to work for the coach that I played for my senior year, Tom Asbury. And again, I've been around some great coaches, but some great people who were great mentors that I'm still connected with to this day. And Coach Asbury recruited me as a player at Pepperdine. He gave me my first assistant job in college. We stayed connected over the years as we moved around, and then he came back as a head coach again to Pepperdine, and he brought me back as the associate head coach, but lined it up for me to become a head coach.
Okay.
And so every time I get a chance to talk about him, there's nothing but praise, because he's been so valuable, and coaches as a whole have been so valuable in my life. So that was one thing that I tried to do for other players.
So you went to, after you played, you went to high school and got the assistant coach position for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And then while you're there, Pepperdine opened up, and you went to go play for the coach that you played for. He recruited you to be the assistant coach there.
Correct.
And you talk about mentorship and how your mentor was able to kind of open up doors and set you up to go become a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Why is mentorship important for young men to develop and get where they're going? Because you became you've won 6 championships or 5 championships as a head coach?
Not as a head coach.
Oh, no, as a coach?
But as a player and as a coach.
So without the guidance, explain what they did for you and how that you overcame obstacles because of the foundation they led for you.
Well, number one, it's a blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you have success as a player or as an assistant, when you're in the meetings every day, you're seeing the structure that's been laid out. Okay, you're seeing the good, bad, and ugly. So when things didn't work, okay, you saw those. Yeah, I'm not going to do those things. But when you see things working out, you see the recruiting, you understand the recruiting, you understand the dynamics of a team needing to spend time off the floor together. That's only going to help on the floor. You learn and understand the strategy behind it in terms of organizing a practice and then taking the practice plan and being able to operate it and implement it on the floor and implement game plans on the floor from practice to games. Then you start to build your own philosophy. And then I've worked with a number of different coaches, some great coaches and some unsuccessful coaches. So sometimes you pick, hey, this is what I like. I didn't like these things with that. I'm going to stay away from those things. As a player, I wasn't a big fan of going out and running 3, 4, 5 miles. So as a head coach, we never did those things. We would do a mile, but it wasn't just run around the track and do miles. We would do it different ways where psychologically it wasn't so depressing.
Mm-hmm.
So just the mentorship and mentoring, it just gave you a blueprint on how to do things or how not to do things. A lot of times you learn by someone else's failures. And I was a big fan of that. Again, going back to my brother and my siblings, if I saw that they did something that got them in trouble, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't work. But that's a big part of coaching. And like I said, to this day, with Coach Hawking, Coach Herrick, who I initially played for at Pepperdine, to Coach Asbury, that I played for and worked for multiple times at Pepperdine, Bob Williams, who I worked with at UC Santa Barbara. I still lean on those guys to this day. I mean, it's been 30 plus years on just things as an adult, as a father, as a husband, as a leader. Okay, Coach, how would you handle this situation? And that's the one thing, or one of many things that I respect that they poured into me.
That's amazing. That you didn't just have mentorship for that period of time. You still lean on them today, because that a lot of, maybe explain this. Do a lot of men don't have that. Would you agree?
I agree, and I know a big part could be. I don't know the statistics on it. It's just fatherhood. Okay, what type of man do you have in your life? Okay, again, I lived with my father, but he was pretty quiet. He worked hard. He got up early to go to work. So our coach, Coach Hawking, he was a father figure for us. And I know Patrick David said, I may mess this up, that a young man needs three things. He needs love, fear, and
an enemy.
And was it enemy?
You need someone that loves you unconditionally, someone that you will never win them over no matter what, and then you also need to choose your enemies wisely.
Yeah. So hearing those things with Coach Hawking, with Coach Asbury, with Coach Herrick, all those things were important. Again, hey, we loved, we respected. Oh, that's what it is: love, respect, and fear.
Oh, love from a okay, I get it. Correct.
So those things, all three of those things were in place. We loved the heck out of them. We respected the heck out of them because what they were pouring into us. But there was some fear. There was some healthy fear that drove us to be as good as we became. So those things were important to me. And again, at my age now, there's still some things that they've experienced that I haven't.
Yeah.
Okay. So me being able to lean on them to ask questions. A lot of young men don't have the strong father figures. So it's important for them to have someone to kind of guide them through the hurdles and mistakes that they don't know are already in front of them.
Yeah, or just kind of like everyone. Hey, how do I handle the situation? This is what's going on. What would you do if you were put in this situation based off your experience?
Right.
So how many when you went to Pepperdine to be a assistant coach, and eventually become the head coach? What was that like?
Well, I was at Pepperdine. It's crazy to think this. I was at Pepperdine for 5 years as a player and a student. I was there for 6 years as an assistant, and then I moved around. I went to University of San Diego for 2 years, UC Santa Barbara for 6, University of Utah for 4. Then I went back to Pepperdine as an assistant, again with Coach Asbury, who recruited me and coached me. And I went back there for 3 years as the associate head coach, but knowing after he retired that I was going to take over as the head coach.
Okay.
So it was great for me, again, having him continue to mentor me, and he told me everything. He told me all the hurdles that he was going through, all the communication that he would have with the athletic directors, just so I was prepared when we made that transition, that I knew how to handle certain things. I knew what he was saying and how he was communicating with them. So I tell you what, he teed up a lot of things for me, and that's why I say to this day I have a lot of respect for what he did for me. But being 5 years, 6 years, that's 11 years, then going back 3 years as an assistant, 7 years as a head coach. I spent a lot of years in Malibu. Mm-hmm. And the great thing is I met my wife in college. So we both graduated from Pepperdine. We had some classes together, both being speech communication majors. And then when I became the head coach, one of the perks was my kids got free tuition. So my daughter, Jessica, and my son, Jalen, were able to go to school for free. Which was a big thing when you're looking at $65,000 a year. It was great.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you were a head coach at Pepperdine, and then how many years were you a head coach there?
I was there for 7 years. Again, we had some good years. And again, when I was there in the early 90s, in the early to mid 90s, we had, and again, as a player in the late 80s, we had some great teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, great teams. Pepperdine was the most dominant team in the league. Gonzaga University now has taken that over. But to this day, Pepperdine still holds the record, as well as Gonzaga has done. Pepperdine still holds the record of most consecutive West Coast Conference wins with 38 straight wins. That's over a little over 2 years without a loss in the league. So that was important for us. But then as a head coach and taking over, when we went back, the program was down. I mean, it was gutted. It kind of felt like a junior college with the hurdles that we had to deal with. So we had to, I wouldn't say gut it, but taking over a program that was at this level as a player and as an assistant. And then you saw me as a former player, Coach Asbury as a former head coach, when it was great to see the level that it was. It was hard. And so we had to start from scratch. We knew we weren't going to be very good the first few years. And then my first couple of years as a head coach, and again, we won 10 games. But then it was about progress. We won 10, we won 12, we won 15, we won 18, we won 18. So we started progressing. And then we had a couple of years of major injuries. And I'm never one to blame the injuries on a bad season. Mm-hmm. That's just part of the business in the game. Mm-hmm. So after my 7th year, I ended up getting let go, and it was tough. Got fired, and if you're in it long enough, you're going to get fired. Absolutely. Most people. So it was tough. It was tough on my son because he was right alongside with me. He was in practice every day. He was in the mix. So when I got let go, he took it hard, and he got in the business for a little bit as a grad assistant at University of Georgia with Tom Crean, and enjoyed it. But he eventually got out because he saw the hurdles and the ups and downs that I went through as a dad.
Interesting. So when y'all were having that dominating season, what were some characteristics of the team that you realized, okay, this is why we're dominating, and moving forward, I'm going to take these characteristics and attributes and apply them to other things in life?
Well, the first thing I would say, we had a lot of talent.
Okay.
We had a young man, Doug Christie, Doug was a freshman my senior year as a player. And then the year I was trying to play, he played his sophomore year. Doug couldn't play our first year, his first year, because of the rules. And then when I first started back coaching at Pepperdine, it was Doug's senior year. Well, Doug was by far the best player in the league. He was back-to-back MVP of the conference, and ended up getting drafted. He was number 17. Draft pick in the first round, and played 14 years in the league. Mm-hmm. So that was number one. We had a lot of talent. Again, with Coach Asbury and Coach Williams, who was on the staff that I ended up working with at UC Santa Barbara. We had a great staff. That was important, but we had great relationships. I'm big on relationships. And again, I stay connected to a lot of the players that I've coached 25 years ago and 20 years ago and 15 years ago and 7 years ago. I'm still connected with those guys. But when those guys were connected off the floor and spent time off the floor, you can see the camaraderie and the things gelling on the floor.
Yeah.
So that was something that was really important for me to see. Okay, these are the things that worked for us. So I have to make sure I implement those things within our team. So we did, as a head coach, as a staff, we would wake up early in the morning with our guys, 6:30 in the morning, and we were out there grinding. We're on the bikes, we're doing the battle ropes, we're lifting, and we're challenging and pushing each other. And as a coach, the physical appearance was important to me. Mm-hmm. So when we go meet with kids and with parents, they see, oh boy, this coach is in good shape, or this staff is in good shape. And probably equally important, when we're in practice, and I told our staff this, I said, when we finish practice each day, we should have to go in and take a shower.
Wow.
Because we worked so hard in practice where we're closing out and we're bumping the guys and we're active in practice. But for us to do the workouts, or not do workouts, I didn't want our coaches in practice and now they're huffing and puffing and they're about to pass out in the middle of a drill. Because your guys are going to respect that. But when your guys see the coaches out there grinding, that's gonna create a bond. So we'd pop in, and, hey, let's go. They pop out, and we're out there. Hey, coach, I see you, and they're uplifting us.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that was important for us to build that type of camaraderie and unity in our team.
That is amazing. That's amazing. I've never heard of coaches actually working out with players. I haven't obviously played in college or things like that, but first and foremost, what you said is talent, relationships, and team. That's what, and if you're all aligned with the relationships, talent, and the teamwork, you can dominate.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I'm gonna put in my back pocket for our team and building what we're gonna do.
Well, let me tell you one of the things. Again, we had I wouldn't say everyone has, but it was important for me to develop a foundation or core value of our program. So I used the word trust,
Mm-hmm.
TRUST, but then I use it as an acronym. So the T was for trust,
Mm-hmm.
the R was for respect, the U was for unity, the S was for service, and the last T was for toughness.
Wow.
And so we would talk about those things and implement things to, I don't want to say program our guys, but challenge our guys in those different things. We would do things off the court to service other people. So our guys knew how important it was to give back and feed the homeless, or go down to the local elementary school and high five the kids as they're getting out of the cars of when the parents drop them off. Different things like that. The toughness part, mental and physical toughness,
Mm-hmm.
of trying to challenge them to grind through those things. So those are just core values of mine that I still live by.
That's amazing. With your coaches working out and playing, and then the players are rooting you on,
Mm-hmm.
that energy's different, because whenever you root for your guys, but when your guys are rooting for you,
Right.
now you're fired up.
Right.
Now you're like, getting flashbacks and getting adrenaline pumping, and then what does that make you feel like as a coach when you step in on those times and you're working out with your guys and now they're rooting for you, and what does that feel like? What does that make you want to do for them, and like how does that trust continue building?
Well, again, I think when you look at the U, it was a unity. Hey, we're together in this. We're united in this. Okay, it's easy for a coach just to make a guy run, make a guy go work out while the coach is sitting there eating and drinking bad stuff for their body. But I think it gives a little bit more to them when they see us going through the grind with them. Say, I'm not going to have you do something that I wasn't willing to do. Even at my age, 25, 30 years older than you,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm still going to commit to doing these things. And I think it just made it easier to get our guys to run through a wall when it was time. It was easier for our guys when we're in a drill and we're bumping them. They want to show up the coach. They want to dunk on the coach. So now it's going to raise up their level of intensity. Just by jumping in a quick drill of closing out and they go by and you try to hit them with a pad. Okay, they're going to get motivation from that. So it was always fun seeing their reaction to things like that.
And when you go see the parents, and like you kind of mentioned, you're very well put together, you're in shape, you're dressed sharp. Now the parents are like, okay, this is someone who has their stuff together.
Right.
And it's a lot easier for you to earn the trust of the parent.
Right.
And then when, that the player, parent, coach trust is there, then you're able to, push the kids more, the players more,
Right.
and, back to the relationships,
Right.
the teamwork,
Right.
and the talent has to obviously be there. So that's beautiful, man. That's a big takeaway.
I'll tell you something that goes hand in hand with that, and this was mind-boggling for me as a young coach. I think I was in my probably my fifth year, but my first year of able to be able to go out recruiting. And recruiting is totally different now. Back then, you would do home visits.
Mm-hmm.
So in September, you would go out and you go into 2 or 3 homes and meet with families. And you would tell them and show them what you do. Hey, this is what we do academically. This is where our school is. This is what we do. This is how we travel. This is how we work out. I mean, different things like that. But I remember us recruiting. I was an assistant for Tony Fuller, who was an assistant when I played. And he's still to this day like a big brother to me. And I reach out to him every once in a while. I remember us going into a young man's home, young black kid's home, and we did the home visit, and we're suited. I mean, we're coat and tie, and we go in, we do the visit, we get back, and we leave. We get a phone call. This is on a Saturday. We get back to the office on Monday. We hear a message from the stepdad. Hey, Coach Fuller, I want you to know that I want my son to play for you. And so we call him, and we're thinking, there's no way they committed that fast after a one meeting. And we reached back out to him, and we were talking, and he says, I'll tell you guys why. He said, we saw you pull up in your car. We saw 2 sharp, professional-looking black men get out, walk in with briefcases. We knew our son wanted to be mentored we wanted our son to be mentored by that, be around that.
Wow.
So that young man committed right on the spot.
Explain why it's important to dress sharp and what the power of suited and a tie and, being professional, having manners, having hygiene. What does that do for recruiting, let's say?
Well, the first thing is just that example, the impression that they got right away before they even heard from us anything that we said. It was, boy, those guys look good. Those guys are professional. Those guys are fit. And then going through the process of the recruitment part, that was an added bonus. You hear the line, you only have one chance to make a first impression. So if you can be the sharpest person in the room, people are going to notice. Mm-hmm. And those things have always been important to me. And again, I know a lot of coaches. I've never been a fan of a coach that is sloppy, that is out of shape, whatever. You can't preach one thing and be something else. You're just not going to have that respect. And so that's why that was always, and that has always been important to me.
And we have a saying, and it's one of my favorite sayings, is how you do one thing is how you do everything.
No doubt.
So if you're, taking care of your body, your clothes, yourself, you're probably going to take care of my son or his work ethic or your business or things like that. So I'm very I guess fond of that term or that phrase. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Right. You also recruited and coached and mentored a guy that we both know. His name is Curtis Eatman, the fourth.
Right.
He is one of our mentors now.
Right.
In the financial service industry, and he's kind of teaching us so many different things in regards to finance and leadership and entrepreneurship, and I mean the list goes on and on and on. What was that interaction like when you recruited Curtis and meeting his family? What was that first interaction like?
It's hard to recall. Again, this was 19 years ago probably. Knowing what the immediate or the first interaction was. But I knew, obviously, when you see a young man play, you watch them play first, and you see, okay, they have this skill, they have this ability, they have these intangibles. And the one thing about Curtis, again, he was an explosive athlete. He was smooth, but he was explosive. He can get down and defend the ball. So that was number one. But then as you're building a relationship, and I know one thing I would always ask a young man the first time I speak with them, what's most important to you when you're looking for school or university? okay? And they're going to tell you what they want. And then for me, it was to show, okay, this is what we have in those areas that fits you, okay? It may not be for everyone, but that was the initial part. So we had restrictions on how often you can talk to a recruit or the parents back then. But then as we developed a relationship and the comfort with Curtis, now we're reaching out to his dad, C3, reaching out to mom, and actually getting to know his younger sister, okay? And just trying to build that bond and that connection so they all, when they're sitting around and they're talking about recruiting, they all have a voice, okay? He may just talk to one assistant coach at one school, but when mom, when dad, when little sister comes and she sees us at practice and you introduce yourself to her and you talk to her, boy, she's got an opinion. Oh, boy, that Coach Wilson, he was really nice to me when he came by. Okay, those things were important. But I always say this, and I try to say this every time I edify Curtis when we do an appointment. I knew right away that he was going to be successful because of the soil that he comes from, mom and dad.
Wow.
Okay, he was planted in great soil, and for them to be under his leadership now is amazing. For me to be under his leadership now is fascinating to me. And I told his wife Spring once I signed on to join their business, I said, hey, I'm not the coach anymore. I don't have the ego. I want you guys to coach me. I'm coachable. If I don't know something, I'm going to ask questions, as you know. But once I learn it, I'm in. So they know more than I do about this business. So I want them to treat me accordingly, as I knew more about basketball and development back then than he did. So I was going to pour into him. So it's fascinating. It's exciting for me to again, part of that is having the relationship over those years that was positive. So now when I decide to move here, my wife and I decide to move here, mainly because our daughter was living here, her and her husband. But then when I reach out to Curtis and just reconnect with him and he invites me to a business meeting, it was because of all the positive interactions that we had as player coach, that we had with mom and dad and little sister, that they were open to keeping that going. So it's special for me, man.
It's a very, like you said, fascinating and beautiful thing to watch, because at one point you recruited Curtis to come play college basketball, and then 19 years later, Curtis recruits you to come to the financial service industry.
Right.
You mentioned Curtis is very explosive. What was he like on and off the field? What was his character, his relationship with other players? What separated him? What unique abilities did he have?
Well, you see his character every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it was back then.
Okay.
He's real quiet. He's real laid back still. Again, his wife, Spring, I think she's a star. I've told her. I've told everybody in our organization. I can't say it enough. I think she's got a higher calling. And when she's motivating and she's encouraging, Curtis sits back.
Yeah.
He's laid back. He's quiet. That's how he's always been like that ever since I've known him. He's not a spotlight person. But again, he's perceptive. He's watching. He's checking out things. So that's how he was as a player. He's seeing, he's analyzing things and being able to use those things for an advantage. As I said earlier, he was an explosive athlete. Okay, he had a quick first step. He'd go up and dunk on you if you fell asleep on certain things. But just in the locker room with the players, it's like he is in our locker room in our offices. Okay, he's quiet. Okay, he's going to give his thoughts and opinions. And now that he's older, he's a family man, he's a husband, he's a leader, and he's educated now, and he can pour more of his experiences into other people. So you saw that building and brewing back when he was in college. And like I said, it's exciting for me to see. And again, like I said, I have relationships with a lot of guys. I spoke with one of our players last week that I coached at Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, and he's been phenomenal, Larry Bell. And again, he had some challenges growing up, and how I just learned that he had been homeless. I didn't know this 20 plus years ago. But he's a family man. He's got 2 young kids, got a beautiful wife. He's got some businesses that he's created. He's doing a little bit of coaching, but learning those things compared to what they were in college and high school, it's for me as an older guy that had mentored and coached them, that's the best part of coaching for me.
Yeah,
is seeing what they've become, and maybe you had a little part of pointing them in that direction.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's I love, that's like a great feeling and story where you know, maybe pointed someone in the right direction. Right. You're seeing how great they're doing, and it's just the trust is there, the love is there, the relationship is there, and yeah, that's what life is all about. I really do believe so. You decided to leave coaching and step into financial services with you said you have a communication degree and you've been doing college basketball. Why did you decide to partner along with Curtis's firm and get into financial services? Like what was such a very interesting switch at later in your career?
Right. Well, first of all, with coaching, again, as like I said before, if you're in it long enough, you're going to have the ups and downs. You'll end up being on a staff that gets fired. Again, I got fired as a head coach. Our staff at Cal Berkeley got fired last year, my last year at Cal. And you search for other opportunities, but as you work with guys, there's like I said, there's certain things that you look for, and certain opportunities that didn't have those things that I was looking for in terms of the character of the head coach. Okay, I've been with some coaches that I loved and had great respect for. There's some coaches that I worked for is like, yeah, that wasn't a good fit for me. So that was part of my transition out of coaching. Will I get back into coaching? I don't know. I'm still connected with a lot of my buddies that are coaches, whether they're assistants or head coaches. I've connected with some of the coaches, local coaches here at SMU, Coach Lanier. I got a lot of respect for what he's done and what he's building. Jamie Dixon at TCU, I've known him for years. And then some of the other locals, UT Arlington, UT Dallas, I've reached out to those guys just to stay around the game. So that was part of the transition out, and then moving here and then being invited to the meeting with Curtis. I was intrigued about the insurance side of it before, because a good friend of mine who was an agent for us back in California, who's a Pepperdine alum, Carmel Stevens, he owns his own agency. I had him come talk to our team years ago because we talk about life after basketball. And so he educated them about just how successful he's been in the industry. And he ended up, one of our players ended up interning for him and then got into the business, and he's done a few other things. So that part was intriguing to me. And then once I got here and started to learn the stuff that I didn't know, because I knew about insurance, if I had a term. Okay, I knew about whole life because I had a whole life. I knew there was cash value and different things because I've invested in some real estate. I pulled money out of one of my accounts and purchased a home in Las Vegas. So I knew some of those things, but there was just so much more that I didn't know. There was so much more that they don't teach us in school that I wanted to learn. So I would wake up just with no alarm clock on Tuesdays and Saturdays, just eager. Let's go to training. What more can I get? And my main goal was for me to learn it, to help my family but to be able to pass it on to my siblings, my cousins, my network, and then ultimately to some of my coaching friends. And that's where I'm getting now, where I can be able to share it with them, because it's what we know, Ara, it's of great value to everyone. And it's a shame that we don't learn these things in school.
2 questions. Why don't you think we learn this in school? And I'll follow up after that.
I think we're trained, most of us are trained, if we don't have that structure in the home, if we don't have that mom or dad who have learned it to be able to pass it on to us, they're not teaching it to us in school because we are trained to be employees.
Interesting.
Okay, you think about whatever level of school, you go to class at this time, the bell rings at this time, you go to recess or lunch at this time, you have to ask permission to go to the restroom. I mean, they're programming you to do exactly what they want you to do. They don't teach you to work in groups, to figure things out as a group. Hey, go home and do your homework and figure it out. Okay.
Wow.
Those things, I think we're just programmed and trained to be employees. The people that learn it, the people that have that early mentorship, or seek that early mentorship, that learn this stuff at an early age, they're an advantage. So it's great for me to see 18, 19, 20-year-olds coming into our office and getting the training and learning. Again, I told you I just listened to your podcast with Joseph. Mm-hmm. And for a young man at 19, 20 years old to make $100,000 in this business, it's exciting.
Yeah.
And I think more and more people, and seeing the people every Tuesday and Saturday come into meetings and eager to learn this stuff, it's exciting, so they can build their own business as well.
It's amazing. How long have you been in the business with Curtis and financial services?
I was invited in late September to come to the meeting.
So it's been, what, a few months?
A couple of months. And ironically, once I told him over the phone, I said, hey, once I get settled into Dallas, into our house, I'll reach out to you. We'll connect. So I remember like at 2:30 in the afternoon, shooting him a text. Hey, man, I'm settled into my house. Let me know a good time that we can, a good day and time that we can get together and connect. He fires back right away. What are you doing tonight at 7 o'clock? I text him. I'm like, dang, that was quick. And he says, I want you to come see an event and see what we do. I said, all right, give me the time. Give me the address. What's the attire? Boom, boom, boom. I show up, and I feel the energy. And I'm thinking I'm back in the locker room. Mm-hmm. I'm back in the gym, and the excitement. And you know this because we experience it every day. So it was exciting for me to really dig in, and I still haven't gone in. One of our things was both feet in, mm-hmm. because I needed to know how. Mm-hmm. How? Okay, how do we do this? So now I can teach others. I can build a team and teach. If I don't know how, I can't teach you. So let me learn the mistakes, and they prevent you from making those mistakes. And like I said, it's been phenomenal. I'm looking forward to growing and getting better. Asking people that's been in the business longer than I have, hey, give me your thoughts on this. I'm not afraid to ask questions, especially if I don't know anything. And like I said, you and I have had a number of those conversations. Hey, how do you do this, or what do we do on this? And again, I'm a lifelong learner, and if I don't know something, I'm not afraid to ask.
I love it. What is something that you learned in your short amount of time that you wish you had known when you were maybe 18, 19, 20 that would have changed everything? Well,
I guarantee, I can't say this, but I know the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book mm-hmm. is probably or possibly one of the most referenced books. Ironically, my son, probably, during the pandemic, he was living in Phoenix. Obviously, I was in the Bay Area. And again, you can't go to work, can't go to practice, everything's at home. And he reached out to me because I was looking at investing in moving my money from one thing and buying some real estate. And he was digging into to getting involved in real estate. So he said, Dad, you need to listen to this book or read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'm asking why. He said, well, you got the old school mindset of work hard and put your money in the bank and save it and all those things. And my rebuttal automatically was, hey, I've been able to do some things with that mindset to help our family. I said, your sister's car's paid off. Your car's paid off.
The pride kind of came in.
Yeah, all of those different things. Yeah. He said, no, Dad. So I listened to it. I put it on speaker. I blasted it through. And when I paused it, I got excited. Okay, I need to get through it. I finished it in 2 days. And it completely changed my mind. I had a lot of money just sitting in the bank. Boom, hey, invested into a home in Phoenix. We bought a home in Phoenix. He and his girlfriend, they were running it as an Airbnb, killing it. And Airbnb's gone down a little bit, so we have long-time renters in there. And like I said, I had a whole life insurance. Pulled some money out of there. Bought a home in Las Vegas. My sister-in-law, my wife's youngest sister, she lives in there. So those things were important for me to learn and, again, be able to pass on those things. So I think just understanding money and how it works and how you can get it to work for you instead of you just working for it.
I love it. Now, with being a coach, a former coach, and a player, and having access to the network you do, and now having the knowledge that you do with finances, and I mean, we always hear about professional athletes, signing a $1 million contract, and then 5 years after they're out of the league, they're broke. And then now with the rise of NIL deals, earlier today we just spoke with a young man who I asked him, how do you make money? He goes, I play for a college and we get an NIL deal. That's my paycheck. So what are your dreams and plans and vision, kind of like your two worlds colliding in regards to helping athletes with NIL deals and making sure that they don't end up in situations where they lose money?
Well, again, what we do, I view it as educating people. Okay, I've never been considered an educator. You've been a coach, but I believe in teaching. Okay, I'm learning still, but it's important for me to teach others. We were talking about earlier, not being a gatekeeper. Well, I'm learning all these secrets. Let me keep. No, everybody needs to know these things, or as many people as possible. The disappointing thing for me is some people don't want to know these things, or not willing to work to learn these things. Some people are just too comfortable in their lifestyle, and that's one of the challenges for us as educators in this business. I don't believe I'm a salesman. I'm not. I'm an educator. I'm passing on the information that I'm learning. And I think just getting it to more people, I think more people that learn it, that study it, that can research it, just with technology, YouTube University, podcasts, and different things like that. I had a friend of mine, because I would always talk about podcasts. And he said, oh, man, you're a podcast listening guy. I said, hey, man, I'm not afraid to learn. Said, if I don't know something, I want to learn. Well, it's helped me. Okay, it's helped me become successful and not flexing. I own 3 homes. Okay, that I don't learn that just by going through the motion and going through the baby steps that they teach us. Okay, let me find out what the successful people are doing. So having the people to pour into us in the office, the Matt Sapalas and some of the other leaders, and Curtis Eatmans and Spring Eatmans and some of those people, that's important to me. And some of the other marketing directors that I respect, Kendrick Williams. I mean, I walk by him and his wife all the time. I get excited just listening to them. And then with Joseph being 20 years old, okay, and hearing what he knows, some stuff that I don't know. That's important for my network to know. And like I said, as the season wears on and come to a close, I'm going to bombard a lot of those coaches because there's so much value that they need, and we just don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have someone that's been in their shoes, that have a long-lasting relationship with them, that hopefully they trust, then they'll be open to learning more about it.
I love it. Now, what's your relationship and experience been like when you met Matt Sapala?
It's been phenomenal. I'll tell you this, and I'm glad you asked that. Prior to me even coming to the first meeting that Curtis invited me to, I remember seeing Patrick Bet-David's interview with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Phenomenal interview.
Unbelievable.
One of the I've watched it. I feels like tens of times.
Yeah.
I love that interview.
I didn't know who Patrick was at the time.
But you saw the interview.
But I saw the interview.
Yeah.
So time goes by. I don't know how much time goes by, and I get here. I think I was here in Dallas, maybe not, and I see Matt Sapala's interview with Primetime, Coach Prime.
Yeah.
I didn't know any connection between Matt and Patrick.
And Curtis.
And I'm going there. So I watched that. Well, then when Curtis invites me to the meeting, I see Matt. I meet Matt. He introduces me. Hey, this is my former coach. Oh, he's excited. And we're talking. It still doesn't register that, hey, this is the guy that interviewed Prime. And maybe a week or two goes by, and I'm in the office at least twice a week, and I've seen Matt, and then I turn on my TV, and I'm just flipping through, and then boom, his thumbnail, Matt's thumbnail of him and Prime. I'm like, oh, that's Matt who interviewed Coach Prime.
Yeah.
That's Patrick who interviewed
Kobe.
And now I'm connected to Curtis, who's connected to him, who's Matt, who's a power. He and his wife were, power brokers in our office.
Yeah.
They're big time.
They are wartime leaders.
But in the industry throughout the country,
not even just in the industry, in the United States,
right? and then them connected to Patrick Bet-David.
Yeah,
I was blown away. And then I told both of them, I said, "Hey man, I didn't know you were connected to him. You were connected to him, and now I'm connected to all of you guys."
Yeah,
that was mind blowing for me to know. And again, the power of proximity.
Right.
Okay, and having them pour into me. The one thing that was special, man, that happened last week. I don't think anybody knows this. So last Monday, I go into the office
for the full timers.
So we have full timers at 10.
Oh, the New Year's Day. Is it New Year's Day?
No.
Oh no.
Whatever day that was. It might have been New Year's Day. Whatever day it was.
Okay.
It might have been. Yeah, it was. So full timers. But I thought we had something at 9 o'clock, so I get there early. And then I realize, okay, then I'm asking, don't we have this at 9 o'clock? No. They said get here at 9:30 for the full-timers. So I'm in the main training room, and Matt's in there, and different people are talking. He comes over, we're chatting. Coach, what do you got going right now? I said, nah, man, I'm just waiting for the meeting. He said, hey, let's take a ride. Let's go get some coffee. So we jump in his, I'm not sure, I think it was a Benzo.
The Rolls, right? Or the Benz?
No, it was a Benz.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping it was a Rolls.
I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that car ride too.
Yeah. So he invited me to go get some coffee or tea with them. So we had a 15-20 minute ride together just to better know each other. So it's special, man. Like I said, in spring did the pregame conversation about the power of proximity, and just knowing my proximity to him, his wife, and some of the other leaders in the office is pretty special.
Yeah, it's a blessing to be in that office and in business with you as well. So let me ask you one final question. In this season of your life and going into 2024, what are you doing to choose your enemies wisely to make sure that you get ahead in life or fulfill your purpose?
Well, I've always known my purpose is to help people, and it's ironic people helping people. PHP. I mean, it's really when Curtis told me about it, I'm like, that's what I do. That's what's important to me. is to be able to help people, whether it's my family, whether it's some friends, all of those different things. So number one was me learning. And if I don't know, let me ask questions. Let me study it. Okay, let me start planning and plotting how to build a business, how to reach out. I've been out in the community just trying to, as we call it, farming. I'm big on building relationships. Let me go build relationships within the athletic field. I enjoy being around young kids, little kids, whether it's babies, whether it's young kids playing sports. I enjoy being around them. So I've been out reaching out to the community. So as I continue to learn this, that we can go educate the community about what we know, because it's needed. And it's something, especially in the black community. I'll tell you this last thing. Which really drives my purpose, two things. My oldest brother, who lived here in Texas, grew up and lived in Texas majority of his life. He was 12, 13 years older than me. And I was at the University of Utah with Curtis, and I get a chilling phone call from his oldest daughter, my niece. And she's in a panic and stressed out and freaked out that he had passed. And she didn't know if he had life insurance or not.
Wow.
And I mean, she's hysterical, and I had to calm her down. And again, I was making pretty good money. I had made some pretty good money and put some money away. So I told her, hey, relax. We will take care of it. I said, we will find out all of those things. We will take care of it. So we fly down here. We go through the process. We're researching. Again, he had a girlfriend that we had never met. We were researching, so I end up paying for the funeral. Again, financially, I had been the most successful in of the siblings. So we all come down there and we do that, and we researched that he did have life insurance. And again, we didn't really know his girlfriend, but we had set up an agreement that she would pay me back out of the life insurance. So a week later, she gets the payment. She pays me back. Well, probably about 2 months ago, my uncle passed, didn't have life insurance. So now we have the GoFundMe, and the families are sending money to be able to take care of some of the needs. That's disheartening for me. So that's my purpose. Number one, take care of my family, make sure they know. Okay, I'm calling all of them. You have life insurance. What's your policy? What's your payouts? What's this? Hey, those things I wanted to know and make sure that they're in tune with it. And then I reached out to my wife's family to make sure that they knew. And again, it's not just the life insurance, but that's been I've always been like the mother hen when we go out. I'm the designated driver. I'm making sure guys are taken care of, making sure they're good. That's the same thing here. That's my purpose, is making sure that people are taken care of. That I'm close to.
I love it. Well, thank you for your time, Marty.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Absolutely.